morning, everyone. Welcome back. We're here to resume the trial, State of Tennessee versus Christopher Bassett, Kevin Colbert, and Richard Williams. Still on the state's proof. You want to prepare to call your next witness?
Yes, sir.
You ready, Mr. Jones?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ready, Lee?
Yes, sir.
Davis Rogers? Go ahead and line our jury up, please, sir. Evan, you may be seated. Does the state like the conference?
Yes, sir.
So wait, Your Honor.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for being with us once again. I hope you had a good evening last night. I need to ask you that question. I've been asking you each day. Did any of you get exposed to any information about this case? Did anybody attempt to talk to you about this case? I'll have to take notes. Thank you so much. Folks, are ready to resume the state's case in chief. Joe, please call our next witness.
Oh, Joel Wade.
Wade, come forward. Take the first stand, sir. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony about the evidence given now will tell you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Have a seat, much pleasure.
Give us your name, sir.
Joel Wade,
Can you spell your first name
Joel,
and your last name?
WADE,
Where are you employed?
Tennessee Bureau of Investigation out of the Nashville headquarters.
What do you do with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation?
I'm a digital forensic analyst.
What is a digital forensic analyst?
We analyze electronic media from computers, cell phones, DVRs, video cameras, game systems.
What is your educational background that allows you to hold that position?
I have a bachelor's in psychology from Tennessee Tech. I have a master's in criminal justice administration from the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, and then over 1,800 hours of training through the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center.
How long have you been with TBI?
12 years, 10 years in this capacity.
And have you testified in the past and been accepted as an expert in digital forensics?
Yes, I have.
We would offer Joel Wade as an expert in digital forensics.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Very well, folks. The court is going to recognize Agent Wade as an expert in area of digital forensic analysis, so that allows him once again to render his opinion within his area of expertise. So just because an expert witness has rendered their opinion, again, you are not bound to accept it. Just like all the other witnesses, it's your job to judge the weight and credibility to be given to his testimony. But he is an expert and may render his opinion, Joe.
Sir, if you could explain to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what is digital forensics?
Digital forensics is the process whereby we take a image of electronic media, whether it be a hard drive or the data off a cell phone or a disk or whatever, and we analyze that with software that at the time of our capture we don't change the data so that we maintain the integrity of that data, and then we analyze it based on the scope of whatever the investigation involves.
And once you analyze it, do you prepare some type of report?
Yes, we do.
Now from that report, can you go further and look for keywords?
Yes, we can.
In this case, did you receive evidence from KPD concerning 2 cell phones?
Yes, I did.
And do you have those cell phones with you?
Yes, I did.
First, let's talk about the black cell phone.
Okay.
Which one is the black cell phone?
The 2016-0271.
And Your Honor, if I can use your projector. If you're going to open that. The envelope you have there.
Correction, the 2016-270 is the black ink case cell phone.
Okay. And that's what you received from KPD?
Correct.
If I could have that. This is going to be Exhibit 469. to move this in as evidence?
Any objection?
No objection.
Okay.
What was the description again? I'm sorry. I didn't catch it.
It is a white HTC cell phone encased in a black rubber case.
Thank you.
Is that the same image?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to make sure because he said it was different.
All right. And now if we can go to the other phone, please. Did you receive a second phone from KPD?
Correct, that is, and that's the Samsung 2016-0271.
And we would like to move that in as Exhibit 472.
Any objection?
No objection, no.
Exhibit 470.
And what I'd like to do is I'd like to direct your attention to your examination of Exhibit 472. Can you explain to us the process that you went about in examining Exhibit 472?
I believe it's 471, but each time. Correct,
the white
the
phone.
white Samsung cell phone. Each time a phone comes in, we determine whether or not that phone is powered on or off, and we do that inside a Faraday box so that we don't activate that phone to the network. Isolates the phone from the network. At that point, we either place it in airplane mode to remove it from the network and also remove the SIM card if the SIM card is present in that device.
And you did that on the white phone?
Correct.
And after doing that on the white phone, were you able to prepare to examine that white phone?
Correct. So once we isolate it off the network, then we're able to connect to the software to run the various extractions from that device.
And what's the type of information that you can get from that extraction?
In this case, I ran all three logical, which is just the user data, what you would see if you were looking through the phone. File system will sometimes get you a little bit more information. You will get some deleted information from a file system extraction because you're getting the databases. And then from a physical, it's just like you would do in a computer, getting bit for bit of a live system.
Now, were you able to get information about Snapchat from that phone?
Yes, I was.
If I can approach and show you Exhibit 556.
Okay.
This is it, Mr. Rogers. 556, you recognize Exhibit 556 as being a summary of the Snapchat conversations?
Yes, I did.
I want to pay particular attention to line 125. If you don't mind to tell us about line 125. Who are the participants in that Snapchat conversation?
That is north from, and then it's cut off. And then Gunzella, and then the chat is you my MF cousin, period. Oh, sorry. I know what you heard, but fam, it's way more to it, period. Just want you to hear my side, period. Hit me up, AM, period. No speaker, just me and you, period. It's more than what you know, fam, period. You my family, and I love you regardless, period. RS, period. Respond to this.
And now, from that summary report, did you prepare an extraction report dealing with the word north?
Yes, I did.
Keyword north. Explain to us how you went about doing that.
Inside the software, it allows us to search for a variety of things, whether it be geolocation data or just common dictionary words.
If I can approach and show you Exhibit 573.
No objection.
You recognize Exhibit 573?
Yes, I do.
What is Exhibit 573?
It is a extraction report of just the Snapchat with the keyword somewhere in the chat.
I'd like to move Exhibit 573 in as evidence.
No objection.
You can move 556 in.
We'd like to move 556 in as evidence.
That was already.
Yeah, I don't think I'll see 556 now.
It's already.
And Your Honor, we would like permission to publish that to the jury. Oh, yes. Let me give you this laser pointer, and I'm going to ask you to explain to us what we're looking at. Hang on 1 second. Tell us about the first column.
So the first column here is Poppy_2X. That's who is sending the snap. The second column is who's receiving it, Rud Zella. And then the timestamp is 12/5/2015 p.m. But we didn't take into account in this report daylight savings time, so it'll be -5. So then you're taking be about 1:09 p.m.
And then the content?
You're not mobile. I'm with my old lady. Right now, I wasn't heading east till like 3.
And then was this deleted?
No, ma'am, it was not.
Now, what does it mean, I guess, if information is deleted?
The user made some attempt to delete that record from their database.
And so we know that this content, it was sent from who?
It was sent from Poppy_2X to Zella.
So if we were to go down to 12/22, what can you tell us about, I guess, this first box here?
First box is just an overview of the participants of that particular chat. So in Snapchat, they're grouped similar to like you would see in Facebook and other apps that are on the phone, they're chatting apps. So this was a chat communication between these two individuals, Zella and Ozabella.
And if you don't mind, can you tell the jury, what is Snapchat?
Snapchat is its own several platforms, but it is a chatting environment whereby they call them stories, but you can send pictures or videos along with a brief text message on top of that picture, or you can send a picture of nothing and just a text message. The concept is that they're there for a little while and then they are deleted. What that means is they're there on Snapchat server for a little while and then they're deleted. Once that user views that, then it goes away from their viewing point, but it is sometimes recoverable.
All right, so the first column, what can you tell us about it?
So in this communication, Zella sends a snap to Ozabella on 12/21, because we've got to subtract 5 hours here, 2015 at 8:40 p.m. Hell no, I know he stay in the towers. Tell anybody I got him 10 bands to all this nigger if they catch him before me.
And was this Snapchat deleted?
Yes, it was.
And what's the response?
Ozabella responds to Zella at 12/21/2015 at 8:42:25 p.m. Shit, what's up? I can set him up.
And was this deleted?
And it was.
Next line.
Then Gonzella responds back to Isabella at 12/21/2015 at 8:42 p.m. Set that shit up as soon as possible. I got you.
And was this deleted?
Yes, it was.
Next line.
Isabella responds back to Gonzella on 12/21/2015 at 8:43 p.m. What's his number? IG, I'm assuming, is for Instagram, Snap, or Facebook.
What is Instagram?
Instagram's another app. It's more of a picture sharing app. It's a I love you type of an app where people take pictures of themselves or their environment more than most.
And just for the record, what is Facebook?
Facebook is a sharing app. You can share chat as well as posts about what you're doing, where you're checking in, various other things. Just another social media platform.
And this chat, was this?
It was deleted as well, yes.
Let's go to the next line. And so the question was, what is his number on IG, Snap, or Facebook?
Correct.
And what's the response?
Brendan Zella responds to Isabella at 12/21/2015 at 8:46 p.m. Facebook is LJ North, and then Snapchat is North from the East.
And was this deleted?
Yes, it was.
Next.
And then Isabella responds back to Gonzella that
What was the time?
12/22/15 at 8:46 p.m.
And was that deleted?
Yes, it was. And then Gonzella responds back to Isabella at 12/21/15 at 8:46 p.m. With Snapchat or SC again, North from the East.
And was that deleted?
Yes, it was.
And so Snapchat, North from the East. And now, what this next story? Who's involved in this next story?
So the participants in this next map are North from the East and Gonzella.
And so right after that last Snapchat, what's next?
It's from North from the East to Gonzella at 12/22/2015, and it looks like it's around 5:25 in the morning. You my MF cousin, ... I know what you heard, but fam, it's way more to it, period. Just want you to hear my side, period. Hit me up, morning, period. No speaker, comma, just me and you, period. It's more than what you know, fam, period. You my family, and I love you regardless, period. RS, period, period, period. Respond to this.
That's 573 of Williams evidence. And that came from this is it's 475. Is that 472? And 479, you were able to examine as well?
Correct, yes.
And were you able to get information concerning Snapchat off this cell phone?
I don't recall.
You prepared a report on that cell phone as well?
Correct, yes, it's on my desk, I could review it.
And that's the same disk that has the other information on it?
Yes.
That's what's.
Mr. Rogers, you may cross examine. I don't have any questions, please. Mr. Bass, Mr. Jones.
Special Agent Wade, the conversations that you've been asked about relative to Run Gonzala and what was the other name?
I'm going to have to look at it again.
Isabella?
That sounds right.
That's December 22nd, 2015, right?
Most of them were December 21st.
Okay, because of the date, right,
Correct.
rolling back.
Correct.
But regardless, clearly after December 17th, 2015 or December 18th, 2015 chronologically.
Yes.
Nothing further.
Slate. Okay, good.
Mr. Wade, do you know who those accounts belong to?
No, I wasn't asked to research that.
So you don't know the identity of the two people that are corresponding? Is that,
No, I don't.
okay. That's all I have here.
You direct.
No, sir.
No, you're.
Thank you. You may sit down. You're free to go. Next witness.
Here, we'll call Patty Resig.
You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony about to give in the case now on trial will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Have a seat, Mr. Resig.
Here's your name, please.
Patricia Resig, R-E-S-I-G.
Where are you employed?
I'm employed at the Knoxville Police Department.
What do you do with the Knoxville Police Department?
I'm assigned to the forensic unit as a firearms examiner.
What is a firearms examiner?
Firearms examiner examines guns, bullets, and cartridge cases from crime scenes.
What is your educational background and training and experience that allows you to hold this position?
I completed the 2-year intensive training program in firearm and tool mark identification at the Orlando Regional Crime Laboratory. And that involved readings on firearms and firearms identification, history of firearms identification, disassembly and reassembly of firearms, microscopic work, looking at known matches, known non-matches, and then finally working supervised casework with qualified examiners.
Now, as a firearms examiner, what is it that you're looking for in trying to make an analysis of parts of the gun?
I look at either test fires that the gun is submitted, looking at the test fires and comparing them to unknowns, such as bullets and cartridge cases.
And have you done this many times or few times?
Many times.
Have you testified and been accepted as an expert in firearms examination?
Yes, I have.
Many times or few times?
Many times.
In state court
Yes, ma'am.
and federal court?
Yes, ma'am.
We would offer Patricia Resig as an expert in firearms examination.
Objection.
No objection as to her qualification as an expert.
All right, very well, folks. Once again, the court is going to recognize Ms. Resig as an expert in the area of firearms examinations. That allows her to render her opinion within that particular field. Again, just because she renders her opinion, you are not bound to accept it. Just like every other witness, it's your job to judge and weigh credibility to be given her testimony, but she is an expert and may render her opinion.
Before we talk about your comparison, can you first explain to us firearms? Explain to us semi-automatic handguns and revolvers.
A semi-automatic handgun is a firearms design that requires a separate pull of the trigger for each shot fired, and then the cartridge casing is automatically extracted and ejected from the gun, as opposed to revolver, which is a firearm design that has a rotating cylinder with multiple chambers, and it rotates around an axis, but then to remove the casings from the cylinder, you have to actually manually remove them. They're not automatically extracted and ejected like a semi-automatic.
Can you explain to us what happens whenever a gun fires a bullet? When you fire a firearm, the firing pin on the firearm strikes the primer on the cartridge, which causes it to detonate. That in turn causes the gunpowder to burn in the casing, and because it's in a small space, pressure increases. As it increases, the casing expands, the bullet starts to travel through the barrel of the gun. The casing is forced rearward from the recoil of the gun, and then it's extracted and ejected from the firearm. For semi-automatic guns?
Yes, ma'am.
And you said the bullet goes down the barrel of the gun?
Yes, the bullet goes down the barrel of the gun, and it's being marked by something called rifling. And rifling is the longitudinal spiral grooves that are put in the barrel by the manufacturer of the gun, and that's for stability and accuracy, because the bullet is an oblong object like a football. It needs to spin to be stable.
And do you have with you a plastic bullet that would assist you in explaining this process to the jury?
Yes, it is.
We would ask for permission to step down and demonstrate to the jury.
You may.
No objection.
Demonstrate.
Okay, this is a cartridge for a live round. There's 4 component parts to the cartridge. There's the primer. There's the casing. And there's the bullet. And there's the powder. So when the firing pin of the gun strikes the primer, it's marked. And that's a firing pin impression. The bullet, like I said before, is being marked by the rifling as it travels down the barrel. It's also being marked by the gun. As the casing is extracted from the chamber and ejected from the gun, it's being marked too. At the same time, too, as that casing is going rearward from the recoil, it's being marked by the breech face. So anywhere where the bullets and cartridge cases come in contact with the harder surface of the gun, it's got to have the potential to be marked.
So when each gun leaves like a different impression on a casing or a bullet?
Certain guns leave an identifying firing impression. Some guns leave a particular one that's consistent with a certain kind of manufacture. All guns in firing are going to leave this firing impression. You're going to have breech face marks from the rearward movement of the casing, and of course you're going to have the rifle marks on the bullet. And again, it depends on the manufacturer, how many lands and grooves are in the barrel, or what the direction of twist is.
And so is that what you're looking at when you're trying to determine whether or not the casings were fired from the same gun and whether or not they were fired from a particular gun?
Yes, and what I'm looking at initially is something called class characteristics. These are design features. They're determined prior to the manufacture of the weapon. So class characteristics of a firearm that relate to the bullets fired through the barrel could include the caliber, the numbers of lands and grooves, the direction of twist, and the measurements of those lands and grooves. Class characteristics of firearms that relate to the casing fired in include the size and location of the firing pin impression, the breech face marks, and also the type and location of the extractor and the projectile.
Now, in this case, were you able to examine a number of casings in this case?
Yes, I did.
Were you able to examine a number of guns in this case?
Yes, I did.
And a number of bullets, partial or whole bullets?
Yes, I did.
And before we talk about that, can you explain to us what makes up a bullet?
A bullet, you have lead bullets, you have jacketed bullets. Bullets are jacketed with a metal covering to cover the core, the lead core, because lead is soft. And so by covering it with a jacket, it makes the bullet more rigid, and also there would be less fouling in the barrel.
You talked to us about semi-automatic guns, revolvers. Can you also talk to us about rifles?
Rifles, the rifles, you have different calibers of rifles. There can be compact rifles. There can be rifles called
Let's see. And you could explain to us the process you go through when you are examining casings, bullets, and guns.
Gun and the components that would be bullets or casings. Of course, I do an overall examination of them. I'll prepare worksheets describing the characteristics of the gun and or the casings and bullets.
So first, let's talk about barrel strength.
I'm referring to the picture.
Set Dallas here. Yes. First show you exhibits 548, 541, 543, 539, 544, 532, 534, 547, 546, 536. Do you recognize those exhibits?
Yes, I do, and I recognize each envelope by the KPD case number, the exhibit number, the date, and my initials.
And if you could, can you tell the jury, did you examine those cases?
Yes, I did.
If you could, if you can tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, and it may be, is it okay for her to step down? It may be easier for you to, not just Art here, you can explain to us what your findings were.
These are 10 packages of 10 fired 40 Smith & Wesson caliber cartridges.
Now, the cartridge casings, were you able to determine whether or not they were fired from the same gun or from different guns?
They were fired from the same.
How were you able to determine that?
Again, I go back to the class characteristics. If the class characteristics are in agreement, then I look at the individual characteristics. And these are the marks caused from the imperfections and irregularities of the tool surfaces that make the gun. And those marks can also be caused from use, abuse, corrosion, erosion, or damage. It's those unique marks that allows me to say whether or not a particular group of casings came from the same gun or that a particular group of casings were fired in a specific gun.
Now, those casings, are they all the same brand?
No, there's they're the 40 Smith & Wesson caliber, but there's 4 Remington Peters, 3 Federal, and 3 Dewan.
Does it matter that they're different brands? Does that prevent you from telling whether or not they came from the same gun?
No, as long as, again, I see those unique marks. I see a sufficient opinion of those now.
So if you don't mind, do you want to read into the record the exhibit numbers of the casings that came from the same gun?
Exhibit number 539, 541, 544, 546, 547, 532, 534, 536, 543, 548.
Now if I can show you exhibits 538, 537, 535, 533, 545, 540, 542, 549, 550, 551, and 552.
Again, I recognize these exhibits by the KTD case number, the exhibit number, the date, and languages.
And were you able to examine those cases?
Yes, I did.
And tell us about your examination of those cases.
These are 11 fired 7.62 by 39 millimeter caliber Ulyanovs. That's Ulyanoesk. Cartridges, and I determined that the 11 casings display class characteristics and individual characteristics consistent with each other and could have been fired in the same unknown firearm. However, I didn't see a sufficient agreement of matching individual characteristics, but I can say they could have been fired in the same way.
And what type of gun fires those cases?
SKS type or AK-47.
And exhibit 537, did you analyze exhibit 537?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, those are my
Cases. Okay. 563, did you examine Exhibit 563?
Yes, I did. Again, I recognize the case number, exhibit number, date, and my initials.
And what did your examination of Exhibit 563 tell you?
563 is a fired 7.60 by 39 caliber bullet and one metal fragment stated to be from Carlisle.
And were you able to determine what type of bullet it was?
Again, possible manufacturing firearms that may have fired this bullet would be AK-47 and SKS.
Okay. What about Exhibit 565? You recognize Exhibit 565?
Yes, I do. Again, the case number, exhibit number, date, and my initials. And it is a fired 7.60 by 39 caliber bullet jacket, stated to be from Florida Tank.
And what were you able to determine about that?
Again, it shared the same probable rifling characteristics of the previous exhibit. And again, manufacturers of firearms with similar characteristics to include the AK-47 type SKS.
Exhibit 566.
566, again, I recognize it. And it is a one-fired bullet core, stated to be from the victim's jeans and not from the tank.
Is that the victim is here? This is Dallas Street.
That is the victim on Dallas Street, correct?
What could you tell us anything at all about the form?
That it could be consistent with a 7.60 by 39.
What about Exhibit 465?
465 is a one-fired 7.62 by 39 millimeter caliber bullet jacket and one-fired bullet jacket fragment stated to be from the victim.
And what were you able to determine about that bullet and bullet fragment?
Again, they shared the probable rifling characteristics with the other exhibits and could have been fired through the same barrels, all of them from the same weapon. But there was a lack of sufficient matching of the characteristics. The fragment that's in this exhibit also lacked any class or individual characteristics for comparison.
And did you prepare a report as to your findings concerning the shooting at Dallas Street?
Yes, I did.
And you recognize Exhibit 434?
This is my report.
I'd like to leave Exhibit 434 in this evidence.
No objection.
Exhibit 434.
And we will move to Lawrence. First, show you exhibits 508, 506, 505, 504, 503, 502, 501, 500, 499, and 491 and 492. You recognize those exhibits?
Yes, I did. They all bear the case number, exhibit number, date, and my initials.
Now, do you analyze those exhibits?
Yes, I did.
What did you determine those exhibits to be?
These are, excuse me, these are 11 fire 9mm Luger caliber cartridge cases.
What brand are they?
All PMC, precision made cartridges.
Now, were you able to look at the class characteristics for those casings?
Yes, I did.
And tell us about your examination of those 9mm casings.
These 11 casings were all fired in the same fire.
And how were you able to determine that?
Again, you know, the class characteristics were in agreement, and I looked at the individual characteristics and unique marks, and I found a sufficient agreement to be able to say, yes, they were fired at the same time.
Now I'm going to show you exhibits 495, 485, 484, 480, 479, 476, 482, 494, exhibit 477, 478, 481, 483, 486, 475, 507, 487, 497, 498, 496, 493, 488, 489, and 490. Ask you to recognize those exhibits.
Yes, I did examine these exhibits, and these are 23 fired 40 Smith & Wesson caliber cartridges.
Now, what can you tell us first about the brands?
There's a mixed brand. There's 15 Blazer. There's 5 Federal, 2 CBC, and 1 PMC.
Again, does the brand matter at all in making your identification as to whether or not these were fired from the same or different gun?
No, if I can see the sufficient agreement of the individual, then as long as I see that.
Tell us about your examination of these 40 caliber casings.
There's 23 40 caliber casings, and I determined that 11 of the casings were fired in one 40 caliber gun. A second set of 11 were fired in the second 40 caliber gun. And there's one 40 caliber casing that was fired in a different gun from the other 2 sets.
If you don't mind, let's recognize that diagram there.
Yes, I did.
What I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to divide out the casings from each gun, if you don't mind. Karen, can we use your projector?
Would you like the lights on or see them on?
For right now. So, if you could explain to us which casings were fired from which guns?
The first set of 11 casings designated as
Can you push this up here for
sure. The first set of 11 casings designated as white.
You got a mask up just where I can see. Thanks.
Would you rather use that or we can turn the lights off? Whichever you prefer. Okay.
First group of 11 included 3, 5, 6, 9, 11, 15, 17, 22, 24, 25. All 26.
And was that gun with that case?
Could include Glock or Smith & Wesson. Second set of 11 includes the green, 4, 7, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 16, 18, 21, and 26. And they were fired in the same gun, and again, the characteristics include Glock or Smith & Wesson series. The third set of 11 indicated by red is Q19, 20, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, and 35. And they were fired in the same gun.
That gun with that case?
9mm.
And the last gun?
Designated by the yellow Q22, which is a 40 caliber Smith & Wesson casing, and it was not fired in the guns of the other 3 guns.
So based upon your analysis of the casings from Lonsdale, can you tell us how many semi-automatic handguns were used? Four. And how do you conclude that there were 4 semi-automatic handguns?
2 were compared, 2 sets of 11 were compared to semi-automatic handguns. Or those were called semi-automatic handguns. The third set of 11 that matched each other was fired from a Glock manufactured gun based on the last characteristics of the characteristics of the casing, markings on the casing. And the third one, the one by itself, is probably semi-automatic gun based on markings.
Does that mean, your conclusion, does that mean that there were only 4 guns used?
Based on the components that I examined on the casings, yes. But I also examined some bullets and cord.
If you didn't,
On what I examined.
if you didn't recover any casings, if a revolver was used,
Correct. Given the design of a revolver, you have to manually remove the fire casings from the cylinder, unlike the semi-automatic that extracts and ejects the casing.
What can you tell us about Exhibit 474?
.474 is one fired 9mm Luger caliber, or 9mm caliber bullets. They would be from porch floor in front of the storage closet.
And what did your examination reveal?
That it displayed rising characteristics of 6 Lansing grooves with a right twist and possible manufacturer types. Could be Astra, Llama, Smith Wesson, Salvage. So not limited to that listing of guns. It's just a possible guns that could apply.
And so that was a 9mm bullet?
Yes, ma'am.
What about Exhibit 511?
Exhibit 511 is one fired 40/10mm caliber bullet stated to be retrieved from passenger side door of a van. And the reason I'm calling it a 40/10 is because unless you have a gun to compare it to, you can't look based on the weight, based on the diameter. You can't separate it out.
What were you able to determine about that bullet?
This bullet displays legal rifling. That is typical Glock manufacturer. It's a type of rifling with a shallow profile for the Lansing grooves. You don't have a sharp contrast between the Lansing grooves like you do in a traditional rifling system. They're kind of rounded and smooth. So probably the most common firearm that we display legal rifling would be Glock manufacturer, the models and the calibers.
About Exhibit 562?
Exhibit 562 is a one fired bullet portion stated to be from between the glass and the upstairs window. And I did not put an exam because it's the core, it's the part that's covered by the jacket.
Can you tell us anything at all about the core?
That the core was damaged, so I don't have an accurate weight, but it could have been part of the caliber.
What about Exhibit 564?
564 is one fired 40/10mm caliber bullet stated to be from the wall at the lower window upstairs bedroom.
What were you able to determine about that?
It displays 6 Lansing grooves on the bullet with the left twist. And again, some of the manufacturers of arms with similar rifle characteristics include limited to Fabrique Nationale, Smith & Wesson, and Wolf.
Exhibit 567?
These are 2 fired 9mm Luger caliber bullets. One stated to be from the kitchen floor, and one stated to be from the bathroom.
What were you able to determine about those bullets?
That they display like the previous exhibit. Q1 evidence number, or exhibit number 7. That these 3 bullets display rifling characteristics of 6 Lansing grooves with a right twist. And again, manufacturers of arms with similar characteristics include, and not limited to, Astra, Llama, Smith & Wesson, Salvage, and Collar. The 3 bullets together, they do display class and some individual characteristics consistent with each other and could have been fired to the same barrel of the same firearm, but there's a lack of sufficient matching.
Exhibit 510? .510 is one fired 40/10mm
caliber bullets they recovered from the back of the victim, Zaevion Dobson.
What did your examination reveal about that bullet?
I compared the bullet from the victim and the bullet from the upstairs bedroom, and they both displayed the 6 Fancy use with a left twist. I compared them to each other, and they displayed some consistent class, some individual characteristics. It could have been fired through the same unknown barrel, but there's a lack of sufficient matching.
So now, as to the items from Lonsdale at that particular time, did you prepare a report as to your findings?
Yes, sir.
If I can show you Exhibit 435.
This is a copy of my report.
This is Exhibit 435.
Objection.
No.
Let's move to Greenfield right now. Let me show you exhibits 527 and 526. Do you recognize exhibits 527 and 526?
This I do, again, the case number, the exhibit number, the date, and my
Tell us about what are 527 and 526.
These are 2 fired 45 auto caliber Wolf cartridge cases.
And did you examine those 2 cases?
I did, and they display class and some individual characteristics consistent with each other and could have been fired in the same unknown firearm, but there was a lack of sufficient matching.
Now let's go to 521A, 521, 522, 523, 524, 525, and 528.
These are did you want to group the cases together? There's a couple we want to
Yeah, I wanted to see also.
let's see.
529.
I did examine these. These are 7 fired 9mm aluminum caliber PNC cartridge cases, and I determined that they all were fired in the same under firearm.
And the 9mm casings, if you could remind us where those 9mm casings were recovered from?
I believe 7 of them were stated as being from the roadway, or 6 of them were stated as being from the roadway, and 1 from apartment 1405.
And what's the brand on the 9mm casings?
These are all PMC cartridges.
Exhibit 528.
This is 1 fired 45 caliber bullet stated to be from driving short.
And how were you able to conclude that it was a 45 bullet?
Based on, I look at the diameter of bullet, I look at the weight of the bullet, and I look at the measurements, and also the physical aspect.
Everybody exhibit 460.
I recognize this exhibit. This is one 9mm Luger caliber PMC cartridge, in other words, a live round, not fired, stated to be recovered from black BMW under left rear back seat.
And what type of 9mm cartridge was it?
PMC.
What about exhibit 561?
And I recognize this exhibit, and this is one fired .45 caliber bullet stated to be recovered from the right arm of Brandon. I compared this bullet with the bullet from the driver's door, and I determined that both the bullet from victim Brandon Perry and the bullet from the door were fired through the same barrel.
Now, did you go further? These 9mm casings from Lonsdale, the 9mm casings from Green Hills, and the 9mm bullet. What brand again would that be?
These were all PMC brand.
Now, did you compare these casings from Green Hills to the casings from Lonsdale?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us about your examination.
They were all fired in the same day.
So the 9mm gun used in Lonsdale is the same 9mm gun used in Green Hills.
That's correct.
And you prepare a report as to your findings.
Yes, it did.
I can show you exhibit 436.
I recognize this is my report.
This is exhibit 436.
No objection.
And then as to your examination of the 9mm bullet recovered from the BMW, do you recognize exhibit 537? 437. Or 437.
Yes, sir.
What is exhibit 437?
The one 9mm Luger caliber PMC cartridge stated to be recovered from the black BMW under the left rear back seat.
This is exhibit 437.
Without objection to 437.
All right, so now you have been able to determine that some of these casings were fired from the same gun. Let's say you get a gun to test. What's the process that you would go through in trying to determine whether or not these casings or these bullets came from a particular gun?
Test fire, the guns that would be submitted, I would test fire the gun. I would compare the test fired casings from the gun to the unknown casings from the two different crime scenes. And again, if I see that the class characteristics are in agreement and there's a sufficient agreement with individual characteristics, I can say that those casings were fired from the gun.
I can show you exhibit 576.
Yes, I do recognize this exhibit again from the KPD case number, the exhibit number, the date, and the initials.
Now, did you examine that gun?
Yes, I did. Would you like
That weapon is safe.
What can you, before you tell us about how it compares to the casings, first tell us about that gun and how it works.
is a 40 Smith & Wesson caliber, Smith & Wesson model SW4040F, and this is a semi-automatic pistol design, which again is a design that requires a separate pull of the trigger for each shot fired, and then automatically extracts and ejects the cartridge.
And if you could explain to us, how do you have to load that gun? I can move that.
There's a To load this gun, there's a magazine, and the cartridges are loaded into the magazine. The magazine is then inserted into the gun. It's not ready to fire yet because one hasn't been chambered. So the slide is pulled rearward, which actually pushes a cartridge into the chamber and it's ready to fire.
And you test fired that gun?
Yes, I did.
And did that gun work properly?
Yes, I did.
And how much the trigger pull? What was the trigger pull?
8 to 10 pounds.
What does that mean?
That's using weights, and it tells me what weight of pull on the trigger, and we have to have the hard one. It's always going to go at 9, and it doesn't go at 8, so therefore I make a range between 8 and 9 pounds.
Now, did you compare the test fires from that gun to the recovered casings from these scenes?
Yes, I did.
And tell us about your conclusion.
This 40 caliber semi-automatic pistol fired the casings at 11 of the casings at Lonsdale. And also fired the bullet recovered from the victim, Zaevion Dobson, and the other bullet, same caliber, from the upstairs bedroom. Again, it displays the class and some individual characteristics consistent with this gun, and could have been fired in this gun or through the barrel of the gun, but there's a lack of sufficient matching.
And looking on that diagram, can you tell us which color grouping?
That 40 caliber Smith & Wesson pistol fired the green markings, which were
You said the green markings?
yes.
What was the capacity of the gun?
It was 14 plus 1. What that means is the magazine can hold 14 cartridges, but the gun total is 15 because you can actually load the magazine, chamber one, and then add another one to make the capacity of the gun 15.
What was the extent of that weapon?
576.
576.
And did you prepare a report as to your findings? You recognize Exhibit 438?
Results of my findings.
Can you send us Exhibit 438?
Objection before meeting.
We can go to Mr. North's case. If I can show you exhibits 599, 602, 603, 604, 605, 606, 607, and 608.
I recognize again these exhibits have the case number, the exhibit number, the date of my initial.
And remind us again for those, first of all, what are those?
These are 8 fired 9mm Luger caliber Winchester cartridges.
And where were they recovered from?
It's stated to be 947 East Hill Avenue. I believe they all were recovered from the stairs.
And is there a date on there?
The date is 4/2/16.
Tell us about your examination of those casings.
I determined, there's 8 casings. I determined that 7, I can say, were fired in the same firearm. The 8th casing, again, showed consistent class characteristics, some individual characteristics, but there wasn't a sufficient agreement. It could have been fired in the same gun as the other set.
Now, those casings, were you able to go further and compare those casings, those 9mm casings, to the casings recovered from Green Hills?
Yes, and again, the 7, I can say were fired from the same gun as the casings from Green Hill. Again, the 8th one, again, I was inconclusive.
And what about the 9mm casings from Lonsdale?
They also were fired in the same guns and 9mm casings from Lonsdale.
And next, you examine exhibit 598 and 597.
Yes, I do recognize these exhibits. The one exhibit are 2 fired bullet jacket fragments stated to be from clothing. The other exhibit is 1 fired 9mm Luger caliber bullet stated to be a smart amount.
What did your examination tell you about those two?
These displayed rifling characteristics of 6 lands and bruises with light twist. The fragments, the fragments display probable rifling characteristics, 6 lands and bruises with light twist. The one exhibit displays rifling characteristics of 6 lands and bruises with the right twist, and then the 2 bullet fragments, jacket fragments, display probable rifling characteristics of 6 lands and bruises with the right twist. Comparing the 3 together, I can say that they display class and individual characteristics consistent with each other and could have been fired through the same barrel, but again, there's a lack of sufficient matching individual characteristics.
What about exhibit 595?
I also examined this exhibit. It's 1 fired 9mm caliber bullet stated to be from victim Larry North, and I compared this exhibit with the other 3. And again, this bullet displayed rifling characteristics of 6 lands and bruises with the right twist. In comparison with the others, I could say it could have been fired from the same barrel as the others.
And as to your examination of the evidence recovered from Hill Avenue, did you prepare a report?
Yes, I did. This is a report of the findings in my examination.
Dr. Newsom is exhibit 439.
No objection.
439.
Let's move to 592.
I recognize this exhibit again, KPD case number, exhibit number D, and my initials. And these are 8 9mm Luger caliber Winchester cartridges and 1 red bayonet.
Now, what can you tell us about those cartridge casings?
These are unfired rounds, cartridges, and they are 9mm caliber Winchester manufacturer.
And what was the manufacturer of the casings from the shooting on Hill Avenue involving Mr. Moore?
With those from Winchester.
So these are unfired.
That's correct.
Did you also examine exhibit 611?
Yes, I did.
Explain to us what exhibit 611 is.
This is one 357 Magnum caliber Ruger model LCR, which is for light compact revolver. And also there were 5 357 Magnum caliber PMC cartridges submitted to you.
And what was the trigger pull on that revolver?
Trigger pull was 9.5 to 10.5 pounds.
And that revolver, again, as you were telling us, in order to, you can fire 6 rounds, and then what would you have to do in order to fire again?
After firing the cartridges in a revolver, you have to actually manually remove it, not like some automatic pistol that automatically extracts and ejects the cartridges. You have to manually dump them out.
And to prepare a report as to your findings concerning the revolver and the live rounds.
Yes, I did.
And is that a copy of the report?
That's a copy of the report.
I'd like to send exhibit 440.
No objection.
Last, if I can show you exhibit 575.
Yes, I also examined this exhibit number.
What is exhibit 575?
This is a 9mm Luger caliber Springfield Armory model XD9 semi-automatic pistol.
Explain to us how that semi-automatic handgun works.
Again, it's a firearm design that requires a separate pull of the trigger for each shot fired and automatically extracts and ejects the cartridge case. Load this pistol, use a magazine, load the cartridges, the unfired rounds into the magazine. Seat the magazine. It's not ready to fire yet. Wait a minute. It is ready to fire because it actually the slide is back, and so it actually, as you close the slide, it actually picks up a cartridge from the magazine and places it in the chamber. So again, it's ready to fire, and then just continue firing until cartridges are gone in the magazine.
When you received the gun, were there cartridges with the gun?
There were It was submitted with 10 9mm Luger caliber Winchester cartridges.
And what's the capacity of that gun?
The capacity of the gun is 12, but the capacity of the magazine is 11. So you can load 11, seat the magazine, chamber one, and put another cartridge in the magazine for capacity, the kind of capacity of the control.
And again, remind us of the brand of ammunition that was in the gun.
Winchester.
And what was the brand of ammunition recovered at the park in Morningside?
Winchester.
And the brand of ammunition recovered at Larry North's scene?
Winchester.
Now, this gun, did you compare this 9mm gun to Larry North's scene?
Yes, I did.
And what were you able to conclude about this gun as it relates to the cartridge casings at Larry North's scene?
There were 8 cartridge cases, fired cartridge cases from Larry North's scene. The 7, I can say, were fired in this pistol, and again, the 8th one, there was, I didn't see sufficient agreement with individual characteristics, but it could have been part of this gun.
What about the Green Hills scene?
The Green Hills, I could say that there were 7 casings submitted in Green Hills that they were fired against.
And what about Lonsdale?
Lonsdale, this was fired the 11 9mm casings.
And prepare a report as to your findings.
Yes, I did. This is the report on findings.
I move this in as Exhibit 441.
No objection, Your Honor.
441.
And you go even further and prepare a diagram for us.
Yes, I did.
I can have some help from General Morgan, Officer Levin. First, if you don't mind, just to look at this diagram before we just wait for through. Ask you to recognize this diagram. And Exhibit 4.2, is this a diagram that you prepared as to your findings?
Yes, I did, along with our time analysis.
I'd like to do this as Exhibit 442.
No objection, Your Honor.
442.
And using the laser pointer, if you could just walk us through.
Starting with the first case, 238 Dallas Street. 11 fired 7.62 by 39 caliber beyond those cartridge cases. There's 10 fired 40 Smith & Wesson caliber Remington Federal 2 ammo cartridge cases. There are covers, bullet jacket, fragments and bullets of 7.60 by 39mm caliber. And these, I can say, probably came from the same unknown gun. These were identified as coming from the same unknown gun. And the fragments and bullet jackets and bullets, I can say that they shared the same class characteristics, some individual characteristics, and could have been fired in the same unknown gun. There was a lack of sufficient matching individuals. Second case, 2704 Badger Drive, 1 fired 40 Smith & Wesson caliber CBC cartridge case, 1 fired 40/10mm caliber bullet from the van, 11 fired 40 Smith & Wesson caliber Blazer PMC cartridge cases, 11 fired 40 Smith & Wesson caliber CBC federal CDC blazer cartridge cases. 2 fired 40 Smith & Wesson caliber bullets and 1 fired bullet core. 1 was from the upstairs bedroom, 1 from the upstairs window, and 1 from the victim, Zaevion Dobson. And then 3 fired 9mm Luger caliber bullets, 11 fired 9mm Luger PMC cartridge cases. Do you want to go ahead? Okay, what I determined was 11 40 Smith & Wesson caliber cartridge cases. This group of 11 were fired in 40 Smith & Wesson pistol. I can say that the bullet from the victim, Zaevion Dobson, was fired to the barrel of that pistol. And then the other components, I could say that could have been fired in that pistol. Back up here, we had the other set of 11 that were fired in an unknown gun, possibly a default manufacturer, and then the 1 single cartridge case at the scene that didn't share the characteristics of either the other 2 .40 caliber guns. Down with the 9s, there were 11 fired 9mm Luger PMC cartridge cases. You can say that they were fired in the 9mm Luger Springfield pistol, and then on the 3 fired 9mm Luger caliber bullets, I can say that they could have been fired in that pistol.
If I can interrupt just to clarify, where there have a color dotted line green, that's what you're saying it could be, but where it's a solid line, you made an identification, is that right?
Thank you. The solid line indicates a positive ID with the gun. The dotted boxes could have been fired. Moving on to the third case, 1904 Natchez Avenue. There were 2 fired 45 auto caliber cartridge cases, 2 fired 45 caliber bullets, 1 from the driver's door, 1 from the victim and the parent, and 1 9mm Luger caliber PMC cartridge from the black BMW. And then on down, 6 fired 9mm Luger caliber PMC cartridge cases from the roadway, 1 fired 9mm Luger caliber PMC cartridge case from Department 1405, and those were positively identified as coming from the 9mm Luger Springfield pistol. Fourth case, Texas Avenue, Minnesota, is the 40 Smith & Wesson caliber Smith & Wesson pistol with the 14 40 Smith & Wesson caliber blazer and ammo cartridges. And again, that is the one that fired one set of 11 at Lonsdale, and also fired the bullet from Zaevion Dobson. Next case is at 947 East Hill Avenue. That's the 7 fired 9mm Luger caliber Winchester cartridge cases, 1 fired 9mm Luger caliber Winchester cartridge case, 2 fired 9mm bullets and 2 fired bullet jacket fragments, 1 at Placard 9, 2 from the clothing, and 1 from Larry North. Again, I positively identified the 7 casings as having been fired in the 9mm Luger caliber Springfield pistol, and the 8th casing was inconclusive. It could have been fired in that. Same with the bullets and jacket fragments. The next one is 1871 Morningside Park at 1600 Dandridge Avenue. That's the 357 Magnum Ruger revolver and 5 357 Magnum caliber PMC cartridges, and the 8 unfired 9mm Luger caliber Winchester cartridges and red bandana. And then, of course, finally, 1871 Hazen Street is the 9mm Luger caliber Springfield semi-automatic pistol, along with 10 9mm Luger caliber Winchester cartridges.
So the jury knows, in addition to the dotted lines, the coloring, the red goes with this gun?
That's correct.
And the green goes with
This one.
And-
Smith & Wesson.
and then the black is just unknown, correct? And so, this 9mm that was used at Lonsdale, we call this, the magazine has a capacity of how many bullets?
The magazine has a capacity of 11, and the gun actually has a capacity of 12.
And so, once you shoot those 12, in order to shoot some more, what would you have to do?
Load the magazine.
Pass the witness.
All right, folks, I want to give the defense team opportunity to cross-examine Ms. Resig. However, it's time for our mid-morning break, so we're going to go ahead and do that. 10-minute break. You can leave notes with your chairs. Please do not necessitate something on yourself. I'll see you in a little bit. All right, welcome back, everyone. So are you ready to proceed? You ready, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh, I need.
I'm going.
Thank you. It's all right. You may be seated and take away
So wait, Your Honor.
Welcome back, folks. We're ready now to resume the testimony of Ms. Resig. We understand you are still on oath. All right, Mr. Jennings, can you begin cross-examination?
Ms. Resig, will you look at the diagram that is to your left with the yellow, green, white, and red on the scene?
We can bring that over. Officer Cuthbert, we can bring that over.
Or just make it an angle where I can see both. I don't want to block the diagram, because I'm going to use that as well. I'm good with that.
You can say that. Okay. You need to tilt it back a little bit there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Resig, that diagram reflects the 34 cases that you were presented with from the Lonsdale shooting, correct?
Yes.
And relative to those casings, you rely upon the evidence text to mark and record where the actual casings were picked up.
What I rely on is their evidence marker number. So if their evidence marker number is, say, 3, that would become my Q.
Right. And so when we go back through there, we not only have an evidence marker number, we have a Q number. And now here today and over this past week, these are also designated with exhibit numbers, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, you've been asked to look at the envelopes with the specific cartridge cases in them. And relative to the colors that are on the diagram, I believe the marks, step over here so that we see that, exhibit 520, those colors correspond then to the colors that you've utilized or that the state has utilized in the outlines on this big chart. Is that right?
Just the red and green.
Right, okay. The yellow, the outlier, if you will, that we're not sure where it came from, do we have it listed on the chart?
Yes, it's the 1.546 Western caliber CDC.
Right. So, that being said, we don't, as we sit here today, know from which range of manufacturers that cartridge case came from, do we?
CDC.
No. I apologize. You're right. Range of manufacturers of cartridge cases, we know because it's got a headset, right? But we've talked about what guns that possibly discharge that particular cartridge case, and that's our unknown, right?
In that case, yes.
Okay, that one case, and so when we say yellow, we know unknown, right?
Yes.
Okay, and when you have described the possible weapons relative to the discharge of cases, we know that the 11 casings, which are noted on Exhibit 520, I'll write myself a note here. through your testing, correspond to the 9mm pistol, which is been filed, in which the judge made sure was safe and that you examined? That is exhibit number 575. Is that correct?
I don't remember what exhibit it is, but are you saying that the red
The red corresponds to 9mm casings, and then on the big, if you will, diagram, I realize I can see up the top, that's the 9mm that you've notated was recovered somewhere in the close vicinity of 1871 Hazen Street, correct?
That's correct.
What date is listed with regards to that recovery, ma'am?
4/14/2016.
Chronologically, at least 3 to 4 months after December 17, 2015. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And of the 34 cartridge cases found at the scene, then that eliminates 11 because we know they go to that gun, correct?
That's correct.
All right. Now, the other cartridge cases left, because if we eliminate 11 from 34 cartridge cases, that leaves us how many cartridge cases? 23? Okay, I'm not trying to be tricky with your math. Now, of the 23, we know that 11 listed in green that you found at Lonsdale correspond to exhibit number 576, and that is the Smith & Wesson .40 caliber pistol.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we've now eliminated 11 and 11, 22 of those .40 caliber rounds as being unknowns. We know that they went to the Smith & Wesson, and we know that they went to the 9mm Springfield pistol, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if we take 11 and 11, that's 22, and that leaves us with 12, right? From 34?
That's correct.
Okay. And from 34, we know that we have this, and I'm going to call it an outlier. I do not know what the appropriate name is. This one casing that we don't know, other than the fact from the head stamp that it's a .40 caliber. You're shaking your head, yes?
Yes.
Okay. So then we take that one away. That leaves us 11 cartridge cases that are unexplained, at least as far as having a match from a gun standpoint, correct?
They're identified as having being fired in the same unknown gun.
The same unknown gun, and that gun could be a Smith & Wesson or a Glock, right?
Smith & Wesson Sigma series or a Glock. Correct?
Right. And do you know how many Smith & Wesson Sigma series guns are in Knoxville, Knox County, Tennessee?
No, sir.
Do you know how many Glocks are in Knoxville, Knox County, Tennessee?
No, sir.
It's fair to say that Glock manufactures several guns, Model 27, Model 22, that take a .40 caliber round, right?
Yes.
And in fact, relative to that .40 caliber round, you mentioned 40 10mm. Would you explain for the jury what you're talking about when you describe, not cases, but 40 10mm, when you talk about those two rounds in close proximity to one another?
Again, when I say 40/10mm, because of the diameter of the 40 and the 10, and also because of their weight, unless I have a gun that I can positively identify it to, I have to call it that. Until I get the gun, now when I get the gun, then I can say, yes, that is a 40 Smith & Wesson caliber bullet because it was fired in a 40 Smith & Wesson caliber somehow that pistol.
And in this case, with those 11, you don't have the gun, right?
That's correct.
All right. Would you look at the 9mm and the .40 caliber. You don't have to take them out of the box. You're certainly welcome to. Don't have a problem with that. I want to ask you some things about what we talk about chain of custody, and I believe the 9mm is Exhibit 575, and the .40 cal Smith is Exhibit 576. Can you actually get those physical guns? I believe this is the...
We have the range.
Sorry. I'm not sure I get the other right one. And again, if you want to demonstrate for the jury that we're talking about these guns so we don't have any confusion relative to this chain of custody, turn first, if you would, to the .40 caliber Smith & Wesson. Is that the gun that you described as being in Exhibit 576 previously to the jury?
Yes.
Okay. And would you look at the box and explain to the members of the jury how evidence is presented to you as a firearms expert to do what you do relative to it? As far as in what condition does it come?
In a sealed condition.
All right. And when you, if you will, violate that seal, what do you do to record and continue to maintain the chain of custody with regards to one of these weapons?
If I have it in my custody, it would stay in my custody unless it goes to another section for examination or testing, whatever purpose.
And in this case, you have noted, and I assume you agree with the chart prepared by, it looks like the Knoxville Police Department, that this weapon, and you will agree with me, the weapon that's in front of you, 576, corresponds to the Smith & Wesson .40 caliber, right?
Yes, sir.
That this weapon came into the possession of the Knoxville Police Department on what day? You've got it written up here too, so I assume it's right.
Well, let me just double check.
No problem.
It looks like 1/7 or 1/17/16.
And that corresponds with the same information that you've got recorded on this big exhibit, correct?
That's correct.
And when was that weapon then delivered to you, if you can tell by your notes and the information that's contained on the box, for you to do your testing in order to compare?
I'm not sure exactly when it was turned over to me from our property unit, but when I opened the box, it was on 2/1/16.
Did you immediately begin to test the weapon then on February 1st, 2016, 2.5 months after the demise of Mr. Dobson?
I don't know exactly the date of testifying, but I do know the date that I started my working sheet, which was 2/1/16.
All right. So you started your sheet on 2/1/16. When did you conclude, not your report, but your physical testing relative to this weapon? And I'm talking about Exhibit 576, the .40 caliber Smith & Wesson.
Could you repeat that, please?
When did you personally complete your physical testing, not your report, on the .40 caliber Smith & Wesson? How many times did you fire the .40 caliber Smith & Wesson?
approximately 18 times.
And in doing so, you were able to secure not only the discharged, if you will, is it appropriate to call it a bullet or a slug? What do we call that?
Test fires in the form of fire casings or fire bullets.
Right. So you were able to recover then 18 casings and 18 bullets, correct?
I do have a note on here that one of the test fires was lost on the way.
Okay. So you were to then at least have 17 to compare, correct?
That's correct.
And you compared those to the, and I believe, the exemplar taken out of or recovered from the back of Zaevion Dobson.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you have noted what we call, at least I do, the Q numbers, right? What does the Q stand for, or is that a random letter?
No, it stands for question.
Okay. And what you're doing then is using that Q designee to tell you where it came from, right? Is the QZD, does that tell us that that came from Zaevion Dobson?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And in this case, with 17 exemplars to look at and compare to the round removed by the medical examiner from the back of Zaevion Dobson, you were able to establish conclusively then that Smith & Wesson Exhibit 576 was, if you will, the gun that killed Zaevion Dobson.
It matched the bullet from Zaevion Dobson.
In your experience, do you feel comfortable testifying to that on a reasonable degree of professional certainty that, as an expert, that bullet matched that gun?
Yes, it did.
Okay. And relative to the way that you determined it, you talked about lands and grooves. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right. And in particular, how many lands and grooves does the Smith & Wesson, such as we have with us 576 that we now know conclusively fired the fatal shot with Zaevion Dobson, have?
6 lands and grooves were left with.
And you also had another exemplar to compare that came out of another location than Zaevion Dobson. Isn't that correct?
Yes, sir.
And that would be the round designated QUB, Q being a what do we call it? Question. I'm sorry. And the UB standing for?
Upstairs bedroom.
All right. And that one, likewise, did it correspond?
I said that it shared the consistent class characteristics, some individual characteristics, but there wasn't a sufficient agreement of the individuals for me to be able to say it was fired through the barrel of that.
Stop short of saying more likely than not, right?
By saying could have been fired in, yes.
Right. I'm not, that's professionally, that's a qualifier. The other one you said more likely than not. So this one that we talked about being upstairs in the bedroom where these children were.
I guess I'm going to object. I don't think she said more likely than not. I think she said that it was
I
exactly.
asked her about, when we're talking about the Zaevion Dobson shot, I asked her to express an opinion based upon a reasonable degree of professional certainty as you ask an expert, and she testified.
I don't think she said more likely than not.
Let me just
I think
ask.
that's the word you used.
Relative to the round that is designated QZD, in your opinion, as a professional testifying here today, is it more likely than not that it came out of the Smith & Wesson exhibit number 576?
No, it was fired through the barrel of exhibit 576.
Okay, I thought that's what I just asked you. So, no doubt about it, it came through 576. QZ D. Sorry, got a lot of initials here. And QUB likely did, but you can't state emphatically or with your degree of professional certainty that it did, right?
I can only say it could have been fired through that barrel.
But what you can say about that upper bedroom bullet is that upper bedroom bullet displayed, tell us what's important about lands and grooves that it displayed.
It also displayed, it was a damaged bullet, but it displayed probable 6 lanes and grooves with a left twist.
Now, you had the opportunity to talk about the different ways, I guess, and that bullets that you've described are marked or striated as they go down the barrel of a gun. Explain to the jury, specifically and in detail, the significance of polygonal rifling as opposed to this 6 lands and grooves descriptor that you've used with regards to the Smith & Wesson .40 caliber.
Polygonal rifling is a rifling system where the rifling has sort of smooth or a low profile. And one of the Glock was probably the most typical manufacturer that utilizes this rifling system. And the reason it has a lower profile or smoother profile is for increased velocity and also it's believed that it causes less fouling in the barrel. As opposed to what he's talking about, the rifling on the QUB bullet, QZB bullet, that is where your traditional rifling. That's rifling that has sharp trailing edge, leading edge on the actual lands and grooves.
Now, there was another bullet particle fragment recovered, and you have designated it with what nomenclature?
Which scene?
At the Lonsdale scene. QUW?
Oh, QUW, sorry.
And that would mean basically upper window? Question, upper window?
I designated as QUW for upstairs window.
All right. And there was not a significant enough portion of that round to be tested.
It's actually a core. And again, when I was talking about the jacket, core doesn't, core is covered by a jacket. The jacket for rigidity and also for to reduce fouling in the barrel. So in this case, the QUW exhibit is actually the core. It's not, it doesn't have rifling on it from the barrel because there's a jacket.
And as a result of only having the core, it wasn't tested and you can't render an opinion relative to that bullet fragment.
Only that it was a fired bullet core. It was damaged on the nose and the side without having activated.
Right, but with regards to what firearm it came out of, you can't testify with any degree of professional certainty relative to this bullet fragment located in the upstairs window.
No.
All right. Now, relative to cartridge cases. Cartridge cases can tell us what type of weapon that discharged them. Correct?
It can, depending on the characteristics on that cartridge case.
It can give us a range of manufacturers if you don't have an example to compare it to. A cartridge case can give us a range of pistol manufacturers if you don't have something to compare it to, as far as what it could have possibly been ejected out.
The cartridge casing typically has a manufacturer's name on it.
But from the marks that are left when the cartridge case is ejected after it's fired, you can determine professionally a range of weapons that case came out of. Correct?
No, because Casings, like firing pin impressions on casings, they can be circular, they can be elliptical. They can have different characteristics in the breech face marks. There's certain guns, if you look at the firing pin impression, as I stated in my report, it could come, if it's a, say for instance, elliptical firing pin impression. That's typically what you see in a Glock firearm or a Smith & Wesson Sigma series.
Right. So it could have come, but we're not to that level of professional certainty that we are with the QZD bullet, which we know beyond a doubt came out of the Smith & Wesson 40 caliber pistol. That's Exhibit 576, correct?
That bullet came out of that 576 exhibit.
Right. And so you understand we're not at what we would consider to be professionally, in your opinion, you testified it came out of that gun, but relative to the cartridge cases, you can't take it to that same level of professional opinion, can you?
I can say that those 11 casings at Badger Drive came out of that, or fired in that gun, yes.
Right. Not 576. I'm talking about the other cartridge cases. If you don't have the weapon to compare it to, relative to Exhibit 576, the Smith & Wesson 40 caliber, you have the benefit of both the cartridge cases, a slug, and the weapon, correct?
For comparison purposes.
Right. So the only thing absent would be powder and obviously a charged firing cap. You got basically all pieces of the puzzle with regards to the 40 Smith & Wesson.
With regard to matching the bullet from Zaevion Dobson and the 11 cases, correct.
And that's why you're rendering that opinion with such certainty and have reinforced that that bullet that killed Zaevion Dobson came out of that gun, Exhibit 576.
It was fired through that area.
All right.
Yes, I think we've gone over this several times. It's one of the things.
Concerning the exhibit that's been placed up there, and I'm talking about Exhibit 520, and they've got cartridge cases scattered all the way from, I believe, marker 36 is the closest in proximity to 2704 Badgett to marker number 3, which is the furthest away from 2704 Badgett, correct?
Based on that representation, yes.
Right, and you have to rely upon the information provided from your text with regards to where they collected the rounds.
Based on what I'm looking at, yes, what they provide. But
All right. You weren't physically there.
correct.
Okay, so you rely upon their professionalism and their notations with regards to the marker numbers.
That's correct.
And the marker numbers and the casings themselves, with the exception of the 11 that you know went to the 40 Smith & Wesson, and in particular the one that clearly came out of the barrel of that gun and struck Zaevion Dobson down, you don't know the direction from which the rounds went that were fired out of those guns, do you?
Only just by the location that was designated on the envelopes.
Right, as far as where they're found.
That one,
But if I had a Glock weapon, for instance, and I went bam, 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 and I fired it straight up in the air, it would eject casings, would it not?
Mr. Jones, when you turn your back to the microphones, Ms. Muffin can't get it, so you keep facing the window.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Relative to that, if I have a Glock firearm, I get it may be imprudent to do it, and I fire it straight up in the air, bam, 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 is going to, assuming it's operating correctly, eject cases, isn't it? And those cases would go theoretically down by gravity and land on the ground.
Yeah,
In your experience.
I haven't shot a marker.
Is there any reason to doubt my exemplar?
Objection.
I think he's asking, does gravity work in your universe? No.
Well, I mean, I think it does. I mean, I'm not good at it.
Well, I don't think that.
I'll move on. So then getting back to what we're talking about cartridge cases, locations of cartridge cases, I'm sorry, turn my back again. Location of cartridge cases doesn't tell us anything about direction of fire, does it?
What, the more cartridge cases you have that are left at a scene, ejected at a scene, you can chart the pattern. You can, if you have, we'll say 11 that were fired from the same gun, it could designate that the shooter was moving, that the shooter was staying still. There's other variables that could be considered. The more cartridge cases you have that match the same gun, known gun or unknown gun, that can determine was the shooter moving, was the shooter staying still.
Right, and if we see cartridge cases going, if you will, I will use backwards as far as proximity, going there, that indicates somebody's moving, right?
If they're spread out and nothing has disturbed them.
Like fire trucks running up and down the road, police vehicles,
I mean,
the
there's
public.
variables to consider.
Those are all variables to consider and they're important.
But the more casings you have that came from the same gun, known gun or unknown gun, you can predict that whether somebody was staying still.
In relative to the casings that you have located and determined came from the Smith & Wesson .40 caliber pistol marked as exhibit number 576, it was a combination of manufacturers of ammunition, correct? I'm looking here on your chart. Federal, CBC, and Blazer cases.
That's correct.
So if you were to have that weapon, number 576, that means that those shells would have all been in the same magazine, right? The three manufacturers.
Correct.
I guess theoretically somebody could have three magazines and change out magazines, right?
Well, based on the magazine capacity of that 40 Smith & Wesson pistol, again, the magazine can contain 14 in the pistol, or and the capacity of the gun would be 15. Yes, that's correct. 14 in the magazine, 15 in the gun.
And if you have 11 fired cartridge cases, right, that you know came out of that gun, that means theoretically that gun could have had 4 left in it, right? Means theoretically that gun could have only had 11 in it to begin with, right?
That's possible.
We just don't know those things, do we? Ma'am? We don't know those things, do we?
No.
When did you actually physically generate your report in which you determined that exhibit number 576, the weapon recovered on January 17, 2016, produced down its barrel the kill shot that took the life of Zaevion Dobson?
That report on that particular gun, that report is dated May 18, 2016.
And in your capacity in producing that report, Did you furnish it to Investigator Leffler and to the members of the Attorney General's office?
I'm sure I did. I can check to see what my facts.
Would you say and explain to the members of the jury when your facts date so we can establish when they had that report?
Well, there's one dated, I've got a couple faxes on here.
Yes, ma'am.
One's dated 5/20/16. One's dated, I'm sorry, 10/25/16.
So on at least 2 occasions, you provided the Attorney General's office a report concerning this or Investigator Leffler?
I don't have the case number on here, but it's in that file.
And relative to the collection of this brass, is that the common term for cartridge cases?
You can call it brass, it's fire cartridges.
Do your reports reflect 4 separate collection dates relative to this brass?
For which case?
The Lonsdale case.
I think all the casings, I'd have to look on the original container, but the 36 sealed vanilla envelopes came out of that sealed brown bag at 2704. That's why I have to actually look at the date on
Okay.
the sealed brown bag.
Could we take a look at those? What exhibit number is that?
I apologize. The brown bag.
The big bag.
Yes, sir.
It's designated as 12/17/15.
And relative to that, and I'm doing this, we got 15 and 11, 26, right?
Yes.
15, 11, 26. 5 more, 31. 2 more, 33. 1 more, 40. So that's our 34, right?
Yes.
And you're aware that the bullet fragment and the other bullet were then collected the next day.
I guess we need to be.
December 18th, 2000.
If you could specify which one you're talking about.
The upstairs window and the upstairs bedroom were collected on December 18th.
Upstairs window, I have a copy of the vanilla envelope, date found 12/18, and what was the other one, sir?
The upstairs bedroom, the one that you designated QUB and discussed the 6 lands and grooves on.
I may have to actually look at your original.
No problem.
Looks like there was I'm reading this from the vanilla envelope.
Yes, ma'am.
Spent bullet lead portion from between glass and upper upstairs window. That was dated 12/18/15. And then the other one was spent bullet from wall at lower window upstairs bedroom. That was also 12/18.
And relative to the other round that you referred to as QV, The Q, again, standing for question. V, vehicle?
That's good, but then,
Okay, van, okay. I don't know, I'm having you help me. All right, and that's retrieved from the door of a van, correct? Or the side of a van?
it's stated as being retrieved from passenger side front door of van.
And that polygonal rifling gives us not only, albeit Glock, the most common polygonally rifled barrel, HK, IMI, and CAR also have polygonal rifling and could have produced that .40 caliber bullet. Not produced, but went down the barrel.
It could have, however, I can't answer it yes or no. That is the legal rifling system of that rifling system. That is typical of Glock. But you also have to understand the 11 casings, I think designated in white on this exhibit, they have elliptical firing pins, impressions on them, and that's typical of Glock or Smith & Wesson Sigma. So you've got, if you have a bullet that's probable polygonal rifling and you have casings with elliptical firing pin impressions, that would suggest to me that there was a Glock.
Right. So the only one Glock round is in our maroon van in the side.
That's correct.
What date do you have that recovered?
Uh, 12/22/2015.
4 to 5 days, depending on whether we're talking about the 18th or the 17th, after these casings and other spent rounds and core were found.
It's on 12/22 as opposed to 12/17.
4 days. Yes, ma'am?
You know, the jury can, that's kind of question, that's an argument form of question, you know. that-
I was trying for the benefit of the court reporter, so I'm creating a record. She didn't answer it out loud, Your Honor. I wasn't doing it to be flippant.
When you ask her, when they reflect on 12/18 or 12/22, you don't need to say, is that 4 days later? The jury has the same capacity to figure out it's 4 days later as.
I felt it was important to establish that, Your Honor. I'm sorry if I offended you.
Go ahead, let's move on.
Once again, relative to this maroon van, you're just testing rounds that are brought to you, correct?
That's correct.
Nothing further, thank you.
Ms. Lee, cross-examination.
Concerning the Lonsdale shooting, were you able to tell what date those casings were fired?
What date they were fired?
Yes.
I can only tell you the date that was on the bag when it was selected.
Okay, so you can't tell when they were fired from a gun?
No.
Okay. And were you aware of any other shootings in Lonsdale in 2015?
I don't know that right off the top of my head.
And from the Lonsdale, were you giving any components that would have matched a .357 revolver?
Again, that question core from, I think it was the upstairs bedroom. It's a core. I mean, I can't really tell you anything but it was damaged. There was probably some weight loss because of damage, so I can't really tell you. Yeah, it's just the fire bullet core portion was something that was lacking in some lead material. And because, again, like I explained, the core does not receive rifling on the core because it's covered by a jacket, I can't tell you a gun can come from.
Okay. That's all I have now.
Cross-examination, Mr. Rogers.
Outside of the notes that are provided to you whenever the guns or the bullets or the casings are provided to you, you can't testify with regards to the circumstances surrounding when any of the weapons or the casings were recovered, can you?
Only I'm going by the date that's on our PIR sheet, which is the property inventory report, that date.
Okay. And so the Smith & Wesson .40 caliber gun was recovered in January 17, 2016, correct?
Correct.
And the 9mm Luger was recovered in April of 2016, is that correct?
That's correct.
But you can't testify to the circumstances surrounding where they were found or who handled those weapons, correct?
Only at the location of the recovery.
And that's based on the notes that are provided to you as they give it to you, right? Okay. That's all, Judge.
You're right.
Just briefly, if a person were to stand and shoot directly up in the air, where would you expect those bullets to go?
Super heavy question again.
Yeah, down. They go up,
Respectfully,
then
Your Honor,
perhaps-
I don't think she's qualified as a physicist with regards to them. I mean, I'll stipulate that what goes up must come down. But as far as speculation about where the physical bullet, there's all sorts of factors at play in.
I suspect if you ask her, she could explain. I would think the answer would be who knows, but
No, I'm just saying, if one were to stand here and shoot directly up in the air a Glock, what would you, as a firearms expert, what would you expect to happen to that bullet?
The bullet?
Huh?
It's going to come down. Where it goes, I don't know. The casings will, of course, come down, and are they going to be right where you're shooting, or are they going to be, maybe there'll be movement, they might be away from you? It just, I don't know.
If you're standing in the street shooting directly up in the air, would you expect the bullets to be in the street?
Probably.
And then on this diagram, just so we know, can you write what the gun is? Which one was the possible block?
Well, Your Honor, I'm going to object to her writing possible. I think just write the other manufacturer. I mean, that's creating a false impression.
whatever term I can't remember exactly what term she used that.
Well,
The other 11 where we don't have a gun.
Right.
Submitted. And again, possible gun types that we want, or Smith & say because there's, you want this, you want to
and you want to just
right here. Oh, I got you.
Yeah. And if you could go ahead for the record, in the red, what kind of gun was that?
Can you say what you wrote, please?
Oh, yes, red, where it says 11 casings, 9mm gun, 9mm Luger, Springfield Armory, semi-automatic.
And for the green.
Again, what I wrote in the green was 40 Smith & Wesson caliber, Smith & Wesson semi-automatic pistol.
And then the yellow?
You affirm, Olivia can't say that, correct?
I can't say because there are markings.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Rogers, no, sir. General?
No, sir.
Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. President, you can sit down and free to go. That takes us to lunch. Please do not discuss this case among yourselves. You know, push your chair. I'll see you after lunch. Have a good lunch, folks. Matter of fact, you have a seat. I think I sent you one of the latest drafts and instructions. I sent you the draft 4 or 5. I can't remember which. Look at those, and we'll start talking about it this afternoon. Let's take an hour for lunch, so we'll be back at 1:20. For some recess.